Hi guys, Tricky Fox here, sorry for the lack of content lately. You see, I had been quite busy, had to deal with some exams, so I spent a lot of time learning. I also got myself a new job that is very time consuming. Maybe some of you are already aware of it, but here's a picture from me at work. That's right, I blow up planets! Now, Sisterhooves is an episode I remember quite fondly. However, I kinda forgot that this episode actually starts rather cringeworthy. Like, really, I love this episode, but the first half kinda bugs me in hindsight. Sweetbell is portrayed as incredible and competent, and Rarity's main characteristics are played up to 11. None of the two is really that likable at first. Sure, I can see where both are coming from, but it certainly doesn't help that Sweetbell messes everything up in the worst possible way. I have the feeling that the episode wants us to feel sorry for Sweetbell, but she's downright terrible. Okay, Rarity did overreact a bit after Sweetbell cleaned her room, and the thing with the sweater can be considered an honest mistake, but that breakfast fiasco is a bit hard to buy. There's no way that Sweetie could screw up toast that badly and ruin the kitchen in the process, but I guess it is supposed to be funny. However, Sweetbell using up all of Rarity's gems to make a gift card is quite stupid and really reckless. Okay, it somewhat depends on how valuable those gems actually are. In some episodes it seems more or less worthless, in others you can buy industrial machines with them. So either Sweetie used simply some pretty worthless rocks or gems that are worth thousands of bits. Rarity's anger towards her is somewhat justified in that case. That being said, Rarity could and should have been a bit nicer towards her sister, as she does seem rather neglectful. And I suppose that's what the episode is going for, showing that they are both at fault, which is a rather good idea, but the execution is rather lackluster in the first half, as Sweetbell's screw-ups blow everything out of proportion. That being said, this episode manages to pull 180 once Rarity realized that she was a bit too mean towards her sister, in a bit of a convoluted way to be fair. The fact that the sweater just happens to fit Opal was dumb luck. Anyway, that's besides the point. The moment of realization for Rarity is rather powerful. And as I have an older brother and a younger sister, I witnessed the situation from both ends. Sometimes I hated my brother for acting like a jerk towards me, while not noticing that I could have been nicer towards my sister as well. It is rather easy not to notice that you are hurting the ones around you, and it can really hurt to realize how you have been acting. And I think especially this was rather well handled in this episode. Now to the next thing, Applejack and Applebloom are used to great effect as well. Applebloom manages to crack me up a lot, though their relationship seems a bit idolized in this episode. They are portrayed as a perfect pair of sisters to contrast Sweetbell and Rarity. That being said, I really enjoy Applejack. I always say that AJ shines the most in supporting roles, and this episode is one of the best examples for that. She gives some good advice and shows some good understanding of the situation, and her idea how to help Rarity and Sweetbell was pretty cool. Though hiding in that mud hole for the entire race is perhaps AJ's most impressive feat to date. Speaking of which, the first time I watched this episode I actually didn't notice that Rarity and Applejack switched places. I actually feel pretty stupid in hindsight, as it is rather obvious. You can see Rarity's blue eyes very clearly, and why would AJ running around covered in mud the entire time? I also think that while it might have been a bit disappointing that it didn't win the race, it was the best way to end it. It emphasizes the fact that it is not about winning, but spending time together and having fun. While the Sisterhood Social is set up as a competition, it is actually meant to strengthen the relationship between siblings. And the moment Sweetbell realized that she actually raced with Rarity the entire time is pretty heartwarming. And the moral about finding compromises is a pretty good one, even if it is only a rather small part of what this episode is actually teaching. This episode is also somewhat noteworthy, as it is the first time we actually learn something about Rarity's family. It shows that Sweetbell does in fact not live with Rarity, something we didn't know before, and it is the first time we meet Rarity's parents. and yeah, back then they were a big surprise and much different from what people might have imagined. Anyway, it's time to wrap things up. Sisterhooves Social is a really good episode. It has some problems with its setup, the conflict feels a bit forced, and it fails a bit to make Sweetybelle sympathetic by trying too hard to be funny. As a result, I actually think the first half is a bit cringeworthy, but the second half more than makes up for it. If you have siblings, chances are that you at least somewhat relate to this episode, unless you somehow managed to get along perfectly and never had a fight with them. It also manages to show Applejack at her best. So yeah, it is one of the episodes I enjoy every time I watch it. But what about you? Do you like this episode? Anything that bothered you? What do you think of Rarity's parents? Let me know in the comments. I am Tricky Fox. Stay foxy. I'm gonna set this joker on fire.
Sly as a fox, you got me under your spell. But you know I'll never tell that I know you know so well. Sometimes you can be too smart for your